What I'm going to show you today is a video I ran across earlier today, which I've already watched it. It's about 20 minutes long. Very good video, very interesting. First thing I want to show you, I want to give you kind of some context here to the video. I'm not going to read all of this. I'm going to put a link to this. This is from the National Library of Medicine, but I'm going to put a link to this in the description so you guys can go check it out for yourself. This would be a good starting point right here to start your research. You can literally start here and then go from here. But you're going to hear in this video, you're going to hear Bret Weinstein, when he done his interview with Joe Rogan, you're going to hear him talking about IgG4. Basically what the IgG4 is it's all explained right here in this article. They completely go through everything you need to know about it. So I highly suggest you come over here and you read up on it after you watch the video. If you've never heard of this, I mean, this article came out in May of 2023. So this information has been out here on the internet, but you haven't heard about it on television, on the news, or anything like that. But yeah, as you can tell, this is a pretty credible source right here. So I just wanted to use this as context to the video. But we're going to get into that video here in just a second. What I'd like to add, though, is that I found this video through Alex Jones. Okay, so no matter how you feel about Alex Jones, whether you think he's for real or you think he's a kook or whatever you think, the evidence in this video is undeniable.
7 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition.
All right, Patriots, let's get into this video.
In the best case, accidentally done, is created a vulnerability in the populations that took the mRNA shots that does not exist in populations that didn't. And any time a pathogen shows up with spike, it is likely to trigger the immune system to stand down. Right? That's something that a weapons maker might dream of doing to its enemy.
The magnitude of the information I'm about to lay out here is huge. It's really hard to describe just how insanely evil the globalists are and how it's all documented and hiding in plain view. Now, before I lay this out and play a very important segment from Joe Rogan's interview with Professor and Dr. Bret Weinstein, I want to be very clear with viewers and listeners. I've interviewed hundreds of experts, and the most important information I've gotten is from the heads of major globalist institutes, like the CREC Institute that advises the UK government on vaccines. They're the main body, one of the top organizations in the world, admitting almost 4 years ago when they first rolled out the mRNA, COVID, Moderna, and Pfizer shots, they're the exact same thing, just Moderna is 3 times stronger, that it erases your immune system. A vaccine is supposed to do the opposite of that. But this gene therapy does just that. That this information has been known for a while. There are literally hundreds of studies, mainline, Harvard, you name it, Journal of American Medicine, British Medical Journal, confirming this. But in a dinner I had, not this Friday, but last Friday, about 8-9 days ago, here in Austin with Dr. Bret Weinstein, before he went on Rogan, he talked in the 2+ hour dinner with some other folks and I about the different angles to what I'm about to lay out and what he's about to lay out. And he added a little bit more to the backstory that was so key to what we're about to play that really is the bombshell. Now, he went on Rogan for 2 hours and it went viral. And a lot of the clips went viral, tens of millions of views, conservatively, just for the full show alone. But I kept waiting when it came out 4 or 5 days ago for the main import to be seen. And that's the fact that the mystery of what the COVID shots they push so hard, what the real plan is with those. I mean, we know it attacks fertility and causes blood clots and myocarditis and heart attacks and strokes. We know it turns old cancers that were turned off back on into turbo cancers and produces new cancers. That's all known. We know from insurance, actuaries around the world, over 20 million people are dead from those. This is all admitted. But what's the master plan? You see, the binary weapon is so strong with shots that by the third shot, your immune system's almost totally turned off. And years before Professor Weinstein said that, I'm going to show you first the head of the big UK institute saying it. And it's in the literature. And he's like, oh, it's a new thing we have. You won't have an immune system anymore for these shots. He's just saying the quiet part out loud like it's no big deal, hiding in plain view.
So the key message from our finding is that we found that recipients of the Pfizer vaccine, those who've had 2 doses, have about 5 to 6-fold lower amounts of neutralizing antibodies. Now, these are the sort of gold standard private security antibodies of your immune system, which block the virus from getting into your cells in the first place. So we found that that's less for people with 2 doses. We've also found that for people with only 1 dose of the Pfizer jab, that they are less likely to have high levels of these antibodies in their blood. And perhaps most importantly for all of us going forward is that we see that the older you are, the lower your levels are likely to be. And the time since you've had your second jab, as that time goes on, the lower your levels are also likely to be.
And then you go into all the documents and research and some of the studies we'll be showing on screen that we added over the Rogan interview to kind of augment it with a digital bibliography for you. So I wanted to just add up front the things he said at dinner that weren't off record. He says he's going to cover it on Rogan that he didn't get to during Rogan. And it's this. Not only do the shots turn your immune system way down, and some people have taken more than 10 now. Fauci's taken 6. He's in the hospital all the time. He claims, if you believe that. But any outside regular natural virus now that wouldn't even get you sick or kill you, to get you a lot sicker or kill you now because of it turning down the immune system. But that's not the key. Any regular virus or souped up gain of function virus can now have the spike protein added very, very easily or even mixed in with it. And now people that have had 2, 3 or more shots totally don't resist a pathogen, a virus that has the spike protein with it. And then he added the final piece, which is hiding in plain view and is a fact. Russia, China, and all these other countries in the BRICS nations did not take the shots. Their governments wouldn't even let them be given in places like China. They had their own classic vaccines that were actually attenuated virus so your body could learn what it was and defeat the virus itself, not produce what the virus creates to counter the virus. How does that work? I mean, it's a 5-year-old should understand this is all a fraud. It's all a scam in your face. Here's the key. Not only does it turn off your immune system, not only can it be added to a regular virus now and your body totally turns off, basically vaccine-induced AIDS, that's what's being called in mainline literature, but China and Russia and all these other countries didn't take it. So when the new virus gets released with a spike protein or a regular virus is out there that normally wouldn't make you very sick, now it kills you or makes you wish you were dead. So it was made in China. Bill Gates was involved. The globalists were involved. We know the globalists are at war with the West. China and all our supposed enemies won't get sick now. Their immune systems aren't turned down now. But everybody in Australia, New Zealand, the U.S., Canada, the UK, Western Europe, New Zealand, of course, has had their own scientists come out at the top of the government and said the shots are causing mass death. You've got Singapore's taking the shots. So many other countries as well. All those countries that had up to 70% uptake of the first few shots, so people figured out it was a scam, now are wide open to the binary weapon. One part, the shot primes you. The next virus comes along and makes you extremely ill or kills you. So that's the parts he didn't finish up with pointing out the elephant in the room. And it's a fact, China and Russia didn't take it. So this is just over the top important. I did a whole hour on this live today. That'll be on X. It is on X. It's also at band.video if you want to go see the deep dive on this. But I wanted to do this intro right now to this incredibly important information. He was very careful. This is not his opinion. This is a fact. And I'm just stating the obvious now in my conclusion, which is there. But think of how it's hidden in plain view. Lowers your immune system massively to every other outside normal pathogen or natural pathogen or any souped up gain of function. And then if you add to any souped up or just regular virus, spike protein, you just turn the lights out. Shields are down. Isn't that smart? Don't make a super powerful virus that can actually kill the elite. They don't take the shot, and they give you a shot that raises your immune system. That's really smart, isn't it? That's how they protect themselves. That's how they do it. That's the question we kept asking. This has been hiding in plain view for years. I've talked about this for years, but now all of it's come into focus. And here's why we're reporting on this. Not just for those they killed or maimed, not just to bring the criminals to justice, but so they can't do it again. Follow me for more reports on this and other key issues at Real Alex Jones. And now the ball is in your court to research this information, to document for yourself it's all hiding in plain view, and to take action with this to stop the globalists before they launch the next major leg of the attack. Because the priming the weapon is just the beta test, and it's so serious, the priming's killed a bunch of people. But the real attack is going to be exponentially bigger and worse. Here's the report.
Why is it we are dealing with a simultaneous panic over Eastern equine encephalitis and West Nile virus? Well, that is a very odd coincidence. One thing that's true is the last panic was over COVID. And the response to COVID was massive vaccination with the mRNA shots, as you know. The mRNA shots, for anybody who got 2 or more, triggered the production of something called IgG4, which I don't know if we've talked about it before, but IgG4 is the immune system's own message to itself to turn itself down. Okay?
Why 2 or more?
That's just empiric. I don't know whether anybody expected this result, but when it was pursued, that was just the number at which we could detect the presence of IgG4.
So not with 1.
Not with 1. I'm not saying there wasn't any with 1, but we don't detect it with 1 shot.
Okay.
And then 2 produces some effect, and the more shots you get, the bigger the effect. Does that explain why disease itself appears to have changed in the last year or two? Right? Why are people so sick during the summer? Right? Do you remember even 5 years ago?
Right.
There were summer colds. People remarked on them because it was weird when you got sick during the summer. Right? I got a summer cold. But people weren't sick with lots of different things during the summer. In general, you were, fine during the summer. And then when you got sick when it was, cold out and you were driven indoors, and that was just the pattern.
Right.
So something's going on that people are much more susceptible. And it just so happens that we've watched a pattern where people have been multiply injected with something that we know turns their immune system down. Why are we not asking the question if the reason that we may have a problem with West Nile virus and Eastern equine encephalitis is the result of a self-inflicted wound? Right? We should at least be asking that question. Instead, we are still recommending that goddamn COVID shot.
Well, and then look at a guy like Fauci, who was one of the rare few that was hospitalized, and he's had 6 shots, according to him.
Yeah, I got to say, as soon as we get to Fauci, I just don't believe anything. I don't know. I'm agnostic as to whether or not the dude took any shots, I don't know what's going on, because there's so much garbage surrounding that guy and what he thinks and what he did that I just can't accept any of it at face value. But here's what I don't understand. Let's look at the Eastern equine encephalitis issue. They are now considering curfews, right? They're going to start eroding civil liberties over the presence of this disease. 1 person has died.
It's only 1 person?
Yeah. If you read up on it, it turns out the average year, there are 7 diagnosed cases of this. So it's not like this is a disease that never shows up and suddenly there's 1 case and people are freaking out. There's apparently an annual rate of this. We have an annual rate that even if it's more, this does not suggest the possibility of a massive disease spread. And if it did, we're still giving people a shot that causes their immune systems to turn down. So can we at least stop doing that before we start panicking over new diseases? Because it sure looks like we are creating vulnerability to new diseases over here, recommending mRNA shots that people don't need. And then we are, having lockdowns. Like,
We're
what
also
is that?
recommending it to people that already have natural immunity, which is the most bizarre thing.
Of course.
The most bizarre, because there's no science that backs that up. It doesn't make any sense, and yet we're still saying to these people, you got to get your boosters. This IG4,
IgG4.
what does that stand for?
IG means immunoglobulin. That's synonym for antibody. IgG is a major class of antibody. There are something like 5 major classes. And then IgG4 is a subclass that turns the immune system down.
And why does this? What is it about the mRNA shots that causes this to happen?
We don't know.
We just know measurably people who have more of them have this.
Yes. And it's alarming. COVID, SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID, appears to have emerged from laboratory work that was dual use. Dual use work means bioweapons research. The excuse, so it's called dual use because you're only allowed to do bioweapons research if it's also research that might contribute to public health. So the excuse is, we're working, what did they tell us? They said, well, the gain of function research is so that we can create pathogens and learn what to do about them before they find themselves out of nature and we don't know what to do, right? This is a nonsense story. It is not coherent to think that by creating some pathogen in a laboratory that you're going to learn something about pathogens that might leap out of nature. For one thing, pathogens leaping out of nature is a difficult thing for them to do. They have to do 2 tricks, and it's not easy. They have to infect a person. Okay, some pathogens will do that. But then, before that person dies or gets better, they have to jump from one person to the next. Very, very few are ever going to jump that gap. So it's not a big risk. And then, if you've created a pathogen of your own, you're going to learn about what to do about that pathogen, but it's not broadly applicable. And you can see we had research on coronaviruses being done in the Wuhan Institute, being done in North Carolina. How much help did it give us? What did we learn from that research that protected us from COVID? And the answer is nothing.
Nothing.
Because it's inconceivable that you would. So they're using the excuse of public health to do this weapons research. But here's the punchline of the story. The vaccines are also the product of bioweapons research because they include the spike protein, which was the innovation that made the ancestor of SARS-CoV-2 into an infectious human pathogen, right? The addition of a furin cleavage site to spike protein made this thing capable of infecting and spreading between humans. That spike protein was the core of the mRNA shots. Get 2 or more of those shots, now you create IgG4, and the more of the shots you have, the more you produce.
But was there any literature that indicated that this was going to have this effect before they rolled out the vaccines? Or was this just an unfortunate byproduct?
I am not aware of that literature, but notice the following problem. That IgG4 signal to turn down the immune system is now connected to the presence of spike protein. At a bioengineering level, it is trivial to add spike protein to something else. Bioweapons researchers have a problem. If you create, first of all, they have 2 problems. One of them is there aren't that many weaponizable human pathogens, right? So they're sort of bored with the fact that they've got a small number of these things and they've played around with them and, they're not happy. They need something else. So there's also a vast number in nature that you could, in principle, weaponize, but most of them can't infect a human. So they engage in this, hocus pocus stuff where they take stuff that doesn't infect a human and they turn it into something that infects a human. And of course, the risk that it will escape is very, very large, and the risk that we will learn anything useful is very, very small. But nonetheless, they play this game, and if they create something that is a frightening weapon that could, in principle, in their warped minds, be used for something useful, the question is, how can you deliver a biological weapon that harms your enemies without harming your population? You have to separate those two populations in some way. The obvious way to do it is to inoculate your population so that they have an immunity. The enemy population doesn't have an immunity, right? Mind you, this is all wildly immoral, but if you think like a weapons maker, this makes some kind of sense. But this is not the only way. That's where the IgG4 thing really throws me. Because what they seem to have, in the best case, accidentally done is created a vulnerability in the populations that took the mRNA shots that does not exist in populations that didn't. And any time a pathogen shows up with spike, it is likely to trigger the immune system to stand down. Right? That's something that a weapons maker might dream of doing to its enemy.
Well, there you have it, folks. I just figured it was interesting and I wanted to make a video about it. Also, there's another video that I'm going to put the link into the description. It's over on Rumble. If you guys want to go check it out, you can. It's called Died Suddenly. It's a documentary. And basically what it's about is they have a bunch of embalmers from all over the world that testify to this in this documentary, about blood clots, people who just, their heart stopped, they just dropped dead after taking this vaccination. But the link of it, it's the video's on Rumble. I'm gonna put a link in the description, and you guys can watch it if you want. If you don't, that's up to you. But all this information is out here. It's all out here, man. Like Alex Jones said, it's there for you. All you have to do is go research it.